Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over a layout technique to figure out the spacing on your pickets. Say you're doing a deck and you're running a deck railing and you're trying to get even spacing between the pickets. I'm going to show you a quick method for laying this out, and it'll get you even spacing all the way across every space in your deck rail. And let's get to it. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here. This is a sample of our railing. We've got a post, another post. We've got 1.5 pickets. This is for my sample. The distance from post to post, the open space, is 41 inches. So if we're trying to figure out what our spacing is going to be so that it's even, sometimes people will make all of these the same and let the difference be made up in the two ends. I'm going to show you a method that lets you break it down so that you'll get the same spacing here and all the way through. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what we know. Now, what we know is, sorry, it's hard to, there we go. We know the width of the opening is 41 inches. I just showed you that. The width of the picket is 1.5 inches. And the maximum space we're allowed by code between them is 4 inches. It really should be a little less than 4 inches. We're going to call it 4 for now. This is for the sake of estimating. Since we've got 4 inches of space and one picket is 1.5 inches wide, that means if you add the two, you get 5.5 inches. That's the amount of space that one space and one picket take up. So we're going to take that number, that 5.5 inch number, and we're going to see how many of these guys are going to fit inside of that space with the correct spacing between them. So now we know that our opening is 41 inches. We know that 5.5 inches is the maximum we're going to have for a picket plus a space. So if we divide the 41 by 5.5, we get 7. That's the number of pickets. And then you have 2.5 inches remaining, because 7 times 5.5, I think, is 38.5. So you end up with 2.5 inches remaining. Now, if you have 7 pickets, which we have here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. You're always going to have one more space than you have pickets. Now, if I take the number of pickets, that's 7, and I add them all up, 7 times 1.5 inches, I get 10.5 inches. What that means is, if I take 7 of these and I push them all together, now I've taken up 10.5 inches of space out of this 41. So now what we do is we take our 41-inch opening, that's the overall space over there. We take our 10.5 inches, which is the space of these pickets right there. That leaves us 30.5 inches of open space. That's from here to there. So 30.5 inches remaining. Now remember, we have 7 pickets. That means we have 8 spaces. So if we take our 30.5 inches, we divide it by the number of spaces, 8, we end up with 3 13/16 of an inch. That means if I start with 3 13/16 of an inch, in there, and do the same thing on each one, and I have 8 spaces, that means each of these should be 3 13. I'll show you what that looks like. That's going to be there. That means it's under 4 inches, so it'll pass code, because you can't have a 4-inch sphere passed between the pickets, between that gap. They're trying to prevent like a toddler's head from getting stuck in there. So that's why they go with that 4-inch number. So that should give you a quick breakdown on how to divide that up. Now, if you were using a different size picket and you were using a 1/2-inch picket, you would simply replace that, add that to your 4 inches, and that would be your space plus your picket. So that means you would have more pickets if they're smaller because the spaces can't get too much bigger. So that's a quick way to figure out your spacing and get all of your pickets looking nice and even. All right, so there you have a quick layout on how to do some deck railing spacing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. I'd love it if you'd share and subscribe to the channel, and let us know if there's something else you'd like to see. I'm kind of winging it here and trying to get things out there that people might like to see, but I'd always love to hear from you and hear what you'd like to see yourself. So, as always, glad you could be with us and hope you can join us again next time. Thanks.